What's up, guys? It's your boys Awoki, back at it with more of the Chris Watts case. Now, I was scrolling through some videos that I have looked at and kind of watched over time, but one kind of sparked an interest into me, which was Michelle After Dark. Did Bella walk up the stairs? Now, when I first thought about it, I'm like, walk up the stairs? She never walked up the stairs. And then I thought about it. It was the oil stairs with the tanks. But I was like, but she was deceased before. I just wanted to look into this video a little bit in depth, just to see what Michelle After Dark has raised eyebrows at. So with that being said, before we go any further, if you guys could do me a solid favor and grab a chair, get comfortable, because we're going to dive completely back into the deep dive. And then also don't forget to subscribe to Michelle After Dark. Give her some love. Subscribe, comment, like, a share. You know the deal. Don't forget to do it on my channel by hitting that white bar icon down at the bottom right. Hit the bell icon next to it. So when I do post videos like this one, you guys will get that little ring notification that I've posted that video. And then you guys can watch, comment, like, and share. And with that being said, let's get into this video right now. It's probably what he's doing in prison right now.
What turns a mild-mannered family man and a loving father into a killer?
That would be an empanada, or now they're saying a hot pocket.
To an annihilator of his entire family. In this video, we're going to look at Chris Watts' confessions, and we're going to investigate a really difficult issue, and that is what actually happened at Survey 319.
I don't think it still to this day has been exposed. I think it went different than how it did. I think it went a lot worse. But again, I don't want to get into it too much because it's little girls. They should be known for their cuteness as little princesses and just the adorableness that they've both had. So I just definitely don't want to keep raising eyebrows on Bella and Celeste, because they were so innocent and pretty much pure little girls that only wanted to love their parents and love their little dog Dieter and their toys. So
when Chris Watts killed his two beautiful daughters.
How could you? I could never do that with my children. Let's just say kids, but I like to say children. So what the word is, the first confession is non-existence. It doesn't mean anything. He spoke differently because he was apparently pushed into saying it by Tammy, which is a lie. The second confession is more towards the way of how I think it went, but at the same time, I think there's little pieces that are missing. Ronnie thinks that this first confession is the right confession, which pretty much looks and paints Shanann to be a villain, where she was murdering the girls, which, again, I 1,000% think that there's no way that woman touched her girls. I didn't think that Chris would be able to do it himself, but again, he murdered his wife and unborn son Nico, so why couldn't he have done the same thing with his girls? But then there's a possibility, which I think, that somebody helped him in his unaliving of his children. So you just be the judge, kind of thing.
She took over from the dead. I freaked out because she had me. So she killed Lucy C. and Bell. Choked on death.
See, I think this is completely both right here, like Hearst. Like, why is he re-saying what Chris said? He's literally saying, oh, so you murdered Shanann because Shanann murdered the girls. Like, why would you say it like that? Like, he's reciprocating what he just said.
Lost it and choke her. That's just rage. I hadn't.
During the first confession, when Ronnie Watts, Chris's father, was allowed into the room and Agents Lee and Coda left, Chris claimed that Shanann killed Bella and Cece, and that in rage, in anger, in desperation, he used the words, "I freaked out because Shanann killed Bella and Chris caught her in the process of strangling Cece." I believe, and it's my theory, and I think the vast majority of people hold this view as well.
Me too.
That Shanann did not harm those girls in any way. Chris committed the murders. Later on, in February 2019, Chris admitted this at Dodge Correctional when agents Lee Coder and Detective Baumhover went to see him and got a full 5-hour meeting with him in which he confessed more details. Some might argue that it's the second confession that's the inaccurate lie, but it's my theory that
I think there's part of it that's lying, but it's in the way to not promote NK, but to like promote her as a better person, a good person. Oh, leave her alone, kind of thing. She wasn't. I think she was involved. That's just my opinion, my thoughts. So, and a lot of people think the same thing.
That actually that is closer to the truth. One thing I want to point out before I move any further is Chris's killings, the murders, particularly the one of Shanann, was not a rage killing. Rage killings involve overkill, that there's more injuries, there's more devastation to the body than is necessary to cause death. That's absolutely not the case, actually, in any of the murders. Chris did just enough to cause death. There weren't many injuries, apart from Bella.
But smothering and strangulation is like one of the, like, what they say? It was like one of the slowest deaths than most. And it's more not intimate, but it's more. I mean, it's closer because the person's right there or right there, kind of thing. So it's more. I can't remember the word that they said, but it's grotesque that he went that route. I'm glad he didn't go other ways of like pew pew kind of things. But again, we're just trying to figure out if Bella went up the stairs.
Who fought back, who had injuries to her mouth. And yet, Shanann and Cece had collapsed lungs. That was probably him leaning on the bodies. But it was just enough to cause death. So let's put that on the table and let's get that out of the way, that these don't appear to be traditional rage killings. For me, what is the overkill is what Chris did to Bella and Cece by putting them in the tanks. That was a demonstration of...
I honestly still don't know why he chose the tanks. Like, why wouldn't it have been the ground with their mom? There's the speculation that Chris said he was so enraged and pissed off with Shanann, he wanted to separate the girls from their mother. But it doesn't make sense. Like, why would he use like look at the tanks and be like, oh, let me go put my daughters in there? It just doesn't make sense.
Some kind of dissociative rage, in my opinion. Now let's move on to later that same evening when Agent Coder came back in the room, and there were officers and workers out there at Survey 319 to try to recover the bodies once Chris had told the officers that Bella and Cece were in the tank.
It took so long to get the girls out. It took so much of like hazmat certified people to come out because of the fumes and what they had gone through. I mean, I wouldn't doubt that a lot of them, if not all of them, had PTSD from this experience. And Chris just acts like it never happened. His parents, especially his mom, sits there and goes, "We don't care what you did." Really? Do you see what he did to his daughters and his wife and his unborn child, and you really don't care what he did?
Chris
Okay.
was very insistent that they were in there. He was absolutely, they were in there. He was telling the truth here. And you can hear the desperation in his voice when Coda questions whether or not he's lying.
We're out on the scene trying to recover your loved ones. So tell me again a little about that hatch. We have some guys out there who think that that hatch is just too small. You think it's about what size? Let's compare it to this plate.
That's about twice the size of that.
Twice the size of this plate?
Yeah.
Okay. Now it sounds crass, but did you have to kind of squeeze them in to get them down there?
I mean, wasn't right. I mean,
Okay.
I don't want to like describe it, but I mean,
Yeah. Feet first or head first?
feet.
Okay. And then, were their arms like this, or were their arms like this? Because you're holding your arms. Okay. All right. So I know we've asked you 1,000 times, and you're probably getting sick of it, but we're very, very concerned about how to get those kids out. You can imagine we can't really cut a hole in that tank because the sparks will blow something.
Yeah.
So I just want to make very sure that you're 100% sure that they're in there.
Yes.
Okay. One in one, one in the other.
Yes.
Now that doesn't make sense to me. Why would you?
I wasn't making
You can hear his voice. He's like chuckling.
at this point in time. I was scared out of my mind. I didn't know what to do.
Okay. So you carried one up, put her in. Did you shut it?
It just flashes.
Okay. Oh, it's just a latch.
Yeah.
And then went back down, got the other one, went up the different tower. Is that how it works?
Same staircase.
Oh, it's the same to get up to both?
Yeah.
Okay. And but the two different tanks?
Yes.
Okay.
So right beside each other.
Okay. All right. And you didn't have to, I know it's gross, but you didn't have to.
No,
cut them
no,
up
no,
or
no,
anything,
no,
nothing
no,
like
no,
that.
no,
Okay.
no.
All right. The one thing I really want to make sure is that you're doing so good right now and tonight. I would hate for, as we're trying to go out and get them, another accident happens and that comes back.
Let's say it's 9 o'clock, and what he's saying right now, if they have an accident and somebody else dies, it would be on him.
You, because we're out there, because
What
of
kind of
this.
accident?
You know what I mean? Like, if they're out there and they're trying to get these bodies, if they're not even in there and we're wasting our time.
Oh, no.
Okay, they're in there.
Yes.
Okay.
I think at that point in the evening, I'm sure Chris was absolutely exhausted physically and mentally.
Who cares?
And you can hear the desperation in his voice when Coda's being really insistent. Are you sure that they're actually in those tanks, you know? And the kind of the thought passes Chris's mind that you know, it's going to be really dangerous now to get them out. So there's that. And I think at this point, Chris is telling the truth. Now,
I honestly don't know what we can believe anymore from that man's mouth.
let's come on and consider the really upsetting and just awful possibility that Bella was alive when she went up to the tank. In Wisconsin at Dodge Correctional, as we'll see shortly, Chris explains that Cece went first and he took her up to the tower and put her in the tank, and then he came back for Bella and did the same to her. This possibility that Bella was alive and she actually walked up the stairs herself and then Chris killed her once she was up the staircase, that was released by Armchair Detective shortly before Sherilyn Cadle's book, The Murders of Christopher Watts, became on sale.
That's where the rumor was.
And apparently he got it from Sherilyn, and it was going to be in Sherilyn's new book. Now, it wasn't in Sherilyn's new book. I've read that.
I mean, we also heard from somebody, too, that Chris was moving to a different prison, and that was completely false. So,
that new book, and it's not in there. Sherilyn later went on to be interviewed, I think it was by Zavgirl. I think that was the interview where she said Chris told her this personally, but it's so distasteful, she didn't put it in the book. Now, I don't know whether Chris did tell Sherilyn that. I don't think we'll ever really know whether Sherilyn's lying, whether Chris is lying, and Sherilyn has made this detail available in
somebody
good
is.
faith. I don't know. But I kind of put a really horrible idea to one side. After it wasn't in the book, I thought, nah, it's not true. Anyway, the other day I watched a video by, I think it was Crime Catalyst, and she interpreted this particular clip between Chris and Coda. She analysed it and she picked out this couple of seconds of conversation.
Is that how it works?
Same staircase.
Oh, it's a staircase.
And if you guys haven't gone to Crime Catalyst, I definitely do enjoy that channel as well. So go on over there and take a look.
Same to get up to both?
Yeah.
Crime Catalyst argued, and I'm seriously considering this as a possibility, that Chris was a little bit deceptive and Coda didn't challenge him when he said it was the same staircase. So it's almost like he's leaving a bit out. He's leaving a detail out that he didn't necessarily go back down. He doesn't understand why he put the girls in different tanks, he says, although later, apparently, Sherilyn Cadle was told that he wanted to make sure that the girls didn't wake up, and that's why he put them in the tanks. But why he put them in 2 different tanks, again, that's probably a detail that we'll never know.
And I don't want to know
But
that.
was Chris purposefully being
Deceptive?
vague when he says it was the same
Or he's being vague because he actually doesn't know because somebody did the deed instead of him?
staircase, because he only went up once with Cece dead in his arms and Bella very much alive following him? Given the fact...
But again, is he being vague because of that reason, like she said? Or is he being vague because he doesn't know how it happened because he was too busy with Shanann taking care of her when somebody else took care of the girls? Just a thought, just an opinion. It's not fact, so...
that Chris is often truthful, but just as likely not. I don't know. I've just got to think of it as something that should remain on the table, so to speak. But then Chris was arrested, and the next we hear from Chris is when Agents Coda, Lee, and Detective Baumhofer went to see him in Wisconsin.
Chris, stand up for me.
Gosh,
I'm going to have you face that wall.
what a feeling that's got to be
Just face it.
to know your life is over.
Lift up your hands.
Being free doesn't matter anymore.
Earrings, necklaces, anything like that.
And still calls himself a father.
This way.
That dirtbag ain't no father anymore.
And then the girls, right? Okay. You mentioned Bella was first. Cece was first, okay. Where exactly was she when it happened?
In the back seat.
Okay. Was she just right next to Bella?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, so once again, was it a hand over her face? Was it?
It was a blanket over and my hand.
And then your hand. Okay. And then so that just stopped her from breathing type thing? Okay. Did she struggle at all?
I don't think so, but I was blocking her face and my hand was right here.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You had one hand here and one hand over her mouth?
And were you just pushing her against the back of the seat type thing? Okay.
See, he's now had time to either 1, process everything, or 2, make up a complete lie so that it looks like it was him, but it was somebody else, compared to the first confession where he just kind of like rambled on and mentioned, oh, well, I put them in here and I possibly went up there. It just didn't make sense in the first confession compared to his second confession.
What was Bella doing?
She was sitting there next to it. She didn't know what was going on.
Okay. Could she see you?
She knew.
Okay. Tell me about what you were thinking.
I wasn't. I was thinking it's what happened.
Yeah.
Or any partial hint of what I feel for those girls and what I feel for my wife, but none of this would have happened, so I wasn't thinking.
Okay. So she's in the back seat. Okay. And then once she's gone, then is it Bella next, or did you pull Cece out?
I pulled Cece out.
Okay, so once Cece's gone, Bella's still there, and
So he's saying he murdered Cece in the truck, and Cece just sat there watching?
the car alive, and then you pulled Cece out. What'd you do with her? Okay. So she went into the tank, and Bella was still in the back of the truck alive. Okay. With regard to that tank, did you bring up Cece, put her down, open the hatch?
Brought her up, opened the hatch.
And then put her in. Okay. And then went down to Bella. Tell me what happened there.
She said, what happened to Cece? First, she asked if it was the same thing, the exact same thing that happened to me as Cece.
Did she ask you that? Okay. So Bella's pretty smart.
Do you guys think she asked that? Bella's a smart girl. But there was people in the comments that I saw that were split between possibly she didn't say it compared to she did say it. So I just was kind of curious what you guys thought.
How did she sound when she asked you that, Chris?
She said that soft voice she always had.
And what exactly did she say?
She said that it's the same thing that happened to me as Cece. And then I said, I don't even remember what I said.
He probably didn't say nothing.
Okay.
I don't know if I just said yes, like a horrible person, or if I just put that blanket over her too and did the same thing.
Same blanket, same way?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She said, no, Daddy.
I've probably listened to those details, that interview, that part of that interview, dozens of times. And now it's in my head that perhaps Bella was alive. I'm listening to that with slightly different ears, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That when Chris tells Coda how he killed Bella, he's actually being led by Coda. If you listen to Coda, he says, well, yeah, and then you came down to Bella, and Bella was in the truck. And Chris doesn't speak at that point. He just lets Coda assume that Bella is in the truck. Now, I believe that Chris is telling the truth about what happened to Cece, because he clearly explains that. And I also believe, my theory, my opinion, that Chris is telling the truth when he says a little bit about what Bella actually said. And I think he's also telling the truth when he says he wasn't thinking. I think he's in some kind of dissociative state at this point. That doesn't excuse anything that he did.
I would say that, yeah,
he's wholly responsible. But the level of detail he goes to here and the emotion in his voice leads me to believe that this part is truthful. But why did he not correct Coda and say, no, actually, that's not quite what happened? Is he letting Coda believe that Bella was in the truck and he killed her in the truck exactly the same way as Cece? And he came down, he took Cece up to the tank, put her in the tank, came down, and then did the same to Bella. Again, we'll probably never know, but it's worth considering the way that Chris is silent, and Coda has this image in his head now, and Chris goes along with it. We know Chris likes to go along with things. Is that just another detail that's so distasteful? He doesn't want to actually say the words. He doesn't want to actually, at this point, February 19, he doesn't want to tell the absolute truth. I mean, he has actually said that.
I think he's waiting, just like in a couple more years, going to say something just to keep, like, the focus on him and not Nicole, if you know what I mean.
There are things that happen that he'll take to his grave. Maybe that's one of the details. What actually happened to Bella is one of those details he doesn't want to talk about. But if that's true, did he tell Sherilyn? Did he? or not?
No.
Because he has told the same story to Sherilyn, but with a little bit more detail about trying to smother Bella and Cece first at the house, and then they woke up. That's a detail he didn't say at Wisconsin, but he said to Sherilyn. So it's like every time he talks about it, every time he's questioned, he adds a little bit more. Is that because he's being led, or is it because he's getting more and more comfortable with actually telling these
or he doesn't know.
really upsetting details? What's the upshot here? That Bella walking up to her death with her daddy, you know, maybe holding her daddy's hand, following behind, saying, "Daddy, no." It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. But thinking about it, is it not even more horrible for Chris to leave her alone in the truck with her dead mother outside on the ground? She's witnessed her sister being killed, and then her daddy leaves her on her own in the truck in a place that she's never been to before. And then he comes back for her. Now, how many minutes does it take him to take Cece up to the tank and then come back down and do the same to Bella?
Probably 5 minutes.
Thinking about it now, that's just as horrible as Chris actually taking her by the hand and leading her up. She sees Cece going in the tank, and then she says, "Are you going to do the same to me?" I mean, I don't have the words.
And he wants out.
I don't have the words. But that level of detail being told, surely, if someone else had done those murders, surely Chris wouldn't be disclosing this level of detail. That's my opinion. So my theory is still Chris did these murders. Now, we also kind of, and I've made videos kind of discussing the possibility of whether there was a cover-up, and you know, we hear people like Larry now saying that maybe there are details behind the scenes.
It seems possible with the things with Anna Darko being involved. It's just scary to think about that it could have been like that, but we don't know.
That there was a cover-up. Maybe there was, right? And maybe those details will come out in the, you know, whatever, the months to come. And maybe there were other people involved in the planning. No, I don't know. I have to, at this moment with the evidence available, I have to say, I toy with all of those ideas, and I'm open to all of those ideas, but Chris did these murders. But I'm willing to change my theory as new details become available. So let me
know your guys' thoughts. Was it Chris or was it NK? Comment it down below. I want to see how many are split in the middle. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe, share with your friends, and do the exact same thing over to Michelle. Again, definitely talking about Bella and Celeste, I feel, is more gone away from talking about because, one, I don't want to talk about children that way, just because it's horrific in itself. But I want to find the truth about you-know-who. So I'm trying to stay away from Bella and Celeste. So if you guys send me videos about how Bella died or how Cece, I really don't want to look into that anymore. Just because it's not saying it's giving me PTSD. It's just giving me scared thoughts about what he did, what he had done, and just vision. I just don't want to even know it. So if you guys can understand. Again, I thank you guys for being here. Please take care. Be safe. As always, keep nerding on, and we will see you guys in the next video.